In the middle of the 19th century, disease was a mystery wrapped in superstition. Doctors believed that illness was caused by bad air, called miasma, that rose from swamps and rotting matter. Surgeons operated with unwashed hands and blood-stained coats they wore as badges of experience. Hospitals were places where people went to die. In this world of ignorance, Louis Pasteur, a French chemist who had never studied medicine, launched a revolution that would save more lives than any single person in human history. Pasteur was born in 1822 in Dole, a small town in eastern France. His father was a tanner who had served in Napoleon's army. As a student, Pasteur was described as average, but he possessed a relentless work ethic and an almost fanatical attention to detail. His first breakthrough came not in medicine, but in chemistry. While studying crystals of tartaric acid under a microscope, he discovered that molecules could exist in mirror image forms, a finding that launched the field of stereochemistry and announced the arrival of a formidable scientific mind. In 1857, a local distiller came to Pasteur with a problem. His beet juice fermentations kept going sour. Pasteur examined the vats under his microscope and found that healthy fermentation was caused by round yeast cells, while the sour batches were contaminated with rod-shaped bacteria. This was revolutionary. The prevailing theory held that fermentation was purely a chemical process. Pasteur proved it was biological, carried out by living microorganisms. He then showed that heating wine or beer to a specific temperature killed the harmful organisms without ruining the product. This process, soon called pasteurization, saved the French wine industry and laid the foundation for the germ theory of disease. Pasteur next demolished the ancient belief in spontaneous generation, the idea that life could arise from non-living matter. Scientists had argued for centuries that maggots appeared from rotting meat and mice sprang from piles of grain. Pasteur designed an elegant experiment using swan-necked flasks. He boiled broth in flasks with long, curved necks that allowed air to enter, but trapped dust and microbes in the bends. The broth remained clear and sterile indefinitely. When he broke the necks, allowing dust to enter, the broth turned cloudy with life within days. The experiment was so decisive that even his harshest critics fell silent. His greatest triumph came with vaccines. When studying chicken cholera, Pasteur accidentally used a weakened, old culture of the bacteria on a flock of chickens. The chickens became mildly ill but recovered. When he then injected them with a fresh, virulent culture, they were completely immune. Pasteur realized that exposure to a weakened form of a disease could protect against the deadly version. He called the technique vaccination in honor of Edward Jenner's earlier work with cowpox, and he quickly developed vaccines for anthrax in livestock and, most dramatically, for rabies. The rabies vaccine was tested in desperation in 1885, when a 9-year-old boy named Joseph Meister was brought to Pasteur after being bitten 14 times by a rabid dog. Rabies was a death sentence. Pasteur, who was not a physician and risked criminal prosecution, agonized over the decision, but administered a series of increasingly strong injections of dried rabid spinal cord tissue over 11 days. The boy survived. The news electrified the world. Money poured in from every country, and the Pasteur Institute was built in Paris to continue his work. Pasteur suffered a severe stroke in 1868 that left him partially paralyzed, yet he continued working for another 27 years. He died in 1895, surrounded by his family, holding a crucifix in one hand. His last words were reported to be, "One must work, one must work. I have done what I could." He was given a state funeral, and his body rests in a crypt beneath the Pasteur Institute, where scientists still fight the invisible enemies he was the first to truly see.